Hello everyone, welcome to EduTap. So I hope you all are preparing really well for the RBI Grade B 2022, and EduTap has brought for you the 10-day super marathon in which we are covering all the current affairs that are relevant for the RBI Grade B 2022 Phase 1. And today we have with us, and we are going to study the RBI news. We are going to have the rapid fire revision. We are going to have the rapid fire revision of the RBI news, as well as everything covering the RBI related to the RBI. That is the notifications, the press releases, the statement of the governor, and everything and anything that is related to RBI and that is relevant for the RBI Grade B 2022. So I hope you have already seen and revised the economic survey and union budget plus report and indices with Ritika ma'am, and government schemes with Diksha ma'am. And today the RBI news, you will have the full coverage of the RBI news. What are we going to do in the 2 days? So in today's session we are going to cover May, April, March and Feb. Yes, today we will be covering all the important notifications from the May and April also, so you have all the reliable coverage, all the relevant coverage that is important from the examination point of view. And I know that you cannot go through each and every notification at this point of time because you have to revise, and so we are here for your revision. Okay, so and tomorrow what we are going to do in RBI news, we are going to cover the October, November, December, Jan, all of this, and why this is going to be important, why tomorrow's session will be important, because PCA framework for the NBFCs, the revised PCA framework for the banks, the scale-based regulatory framework, the LEI for the cross-border, so many important notifications came in the previous months. So that will also be a very important session for you all. So we are going to cover all the RBI notification. Let me tell you, I have seen all the notifications, all the press releases, and I myself have seen that nothing is left out. That is important from the RBI Grade B point of view. And why is RBI news or RBI notification so important? Because directly in the previous 2021 there were 10 to 11 questions, and I will show you those questions, and on those lines only the session has been made. The questions for today and tomorrow has been made. Okay, so now before starting with the session, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are new to the channel for all the sessions, for all the great material, as well as join our Telegram channel for the PDF of this session, and you can get the link of the Telegram channel in the description box below. So here I will show you the previous year question of the 2021. There are 11 questions that I am going to show you. So directly from the RBI notification, this question has came in phase 1. All questions are from phase 1 only of the RBI 2021. So current marginal standing facility. So the current rates of the RBI are very important, and that we are going to revise today. Then net owned fund. Any net owned fund that is in the notifications become very important, because directly the questions has been asked from the net owned fund in 2019-2021. Then we come to the full forms. Okay, full forms are very important. Then comes the DPI index, or the indexes that is released by the RBI. Those are very important because like static questions can be asked from those. Then we comes to NSFE and the reports of the RBI. That also we are going to cover, but the reports we will be covering tomorrow. Okay. Then comes net owned fund. I have told you net owned fund, the net worth, those are very important. The asset sizes are very important, and today you will see that there are so many net owned fund that I have brought for you all. We have the current ceiling of the CRR and all those. Directly these are 2021 questions. Okay, so first micro lending bank, and that is from 2014. So the first banks are very important. First Paytm payment bank, first small finance bank, those are very important because they are currently in news. Okay, the payments bank and the small finance bank are currently in news. Then there is the ombudsman schemes and the schemes of the RBI. Then there is the static question from the policies of RBI. Then there is 2019 question here also, that is net owned fund is very important, and the net worth and all of that is very important, and today we are going to do everything. Okay, so let's start with the first question. I hope you all are very prepared, and I'm so happy to bring such questions for you all, and I know that you are going to rock today. Okay, you will be giving all the right answers. So start with this, that what is the policy repo rate as per the governor's statement released on May 2022. So it was a off-cycle meeting that happened. Okay, it was an off-cycle meeting that happened. and that was the meeting in which the repo rate was changed, and I'm getting the answer from Vanshika, Nilesh, Sonu. Everyone is saying E, and that is absolutely the correct answer. The previous repo rate was 4% and that has been raised by 40 basis point, and now it has become 4.40%. So yes, that is absolutely correct. So in the off cycle meeting these decisions were taken. Okay, next is SDF has become the floor of the liquidity adjustment facility of the LAF corridor. The floor has become SDF in April 2022. So you have to tell that what is the current SDF. Okay, or not current SDF, but just tell me the percentage difference between the SDF and the repo rate, because that is how you are going to calculate the SDF of every month. Okay, I am getting the answer C from Vishika, Kumar, Manish. Everyone is saying C, and that is absolutely correct. The difference between the repo rate and the SDF is 0.25%, and the difference between the repo rate and the MSF, that is the ceiling of the LAF, that is also 0.25%. So this you have to remember. And now can you tell me that if the difference is 0.25%, so SDF is what? What percentage is the SDF? Then it will be 4.15% if the repo rate is 4.40%. Okay. Next is, as per the recent Monetary Policy Committee meeting of May 2022, what is the rate of current marginal standing facility? Okay, previous year question was on these lines, as you can see, and I have given you the hint that the repo rate and the MSF difference is what. So you can easily answer this now, right? SDF is the floor. See, SDF is standing deposit facility in which the banks can get the loan from the RBI without RBI will not be giving the deposits. Banks can deposit with RBI, and RBI will not be giving the collateral to the banks, or RBI will not be giving the government securities to the banks. So the banks can deposit their money with the RBI. This is how the RBI is going to take out the liquidity, excess liquidity from the system of the country. So I hope you have understood that banks can deposit their money with the RBI, and RBI will not give the government securities in this. And I am getting the answers 4.65%, that is correct. SDF is 4.15% and the repo rate is 4.40% and the MSF is 4.65%. So you can see here SDF is this and marginal standing facility and bank rate both are same, that is 4.65%. No collateral will be required under the SDF. Okay, standing deposit facility, no collateral will be required. As per a recent governor statement, the RBI has decided to increase the cash reserve ratio by what basis point, and the percentage will be what, that you have to tell from May 21, 2022. So in the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, this decision was taken that we will increase the CRR because we want to take out the excess liquidity from the system. That's why SDF was also introduced, so that the deposits can be taken from the banks and the excess liquidity can be reduced in the system, as well as CRR was increased. Okay, I'm getting the answer A by all of you, and that is so good to see that you have crammed, you have learned, you have understood the MPC so well that you are giving the right answer. So yes, the CRR currently is 4%, but it will be increased by 50 basis point, that is to 4.5%. So the new CRR from May 21st, 2022 will be 4.5%. Next is, which of the following is mandated by RBI to the banks to store a proportion of their NDTL in the form of cash with the central bank on which banks do not earn any interest? So this is the static question from the current affairs. Such kind of questions I have shown you in the previous year. So this is important. Okay, I am getting the answers. B, Vanshika is saying, Kumar, Manish, Nitish, all of you are saying, most of you are saying B, so that is the right answer, cash reserve ratio. See, the CRR is the cash, is the money that the banks are keeping with the RBI, in which the banks will not earn any of the interest. In the SLR, in the statutory liquidity ratio, there are government securities. So on these, the banks earn the interest. But the banks do not earn any interest on CRR, but banks earn the interest on some of the SLR securities, So the right answer will be cash reserve ratio. So next is recently in the Monetary Policy Statement 2022-23 resolution of the Monetary Policy Committee, the assessment of the global economy and the assessment of the domestic economy was made in the Monetary Policy Committee meeting. According to that document, what is the IMF has revised its forecast of global output growth for 2022 to dash in April 2022. So what is the updated global output growth percentage? So I'm getting the answer. Some are saying B, some are saying D. Yes, so Shubhankar, Kumar, Akshita, you people are rocking it. That is correct. 3.6% is the percentage of the IMF is saying that will be, it is forecasted that this will be 3.6% will be the global output growth of the country, of the world. Okay, and this was told in the by the International Monetary Fund in the World Economic Outlook April 2022 document, in which it has said that the 3.6% will be the global output growth, and the World Trade Organization has said that the trade will be, the growth in the trade, world trade will be 3%. Okay, the World Trade Organization has also dropped the percentage, the trade growth percentage by 1.7%. It was higher before, it is lower now. Next is recently who among the following has been appointed as an ex officio member of the Monetary Policy Committee by the Central Board of the Reserve Bank of India. So recently the Mridul Sagar was the one that was replaced by the other member, and this member has joined the Monetary Policy Committee meeting of May 2022, and that's why he has become an important person that we have to remember. And yes, I am getting the right answer. Rajiv Ranjan is the right answer, and he has replaced Mridul Sagar from the Monetary Policy Committee of May 2022. You can read that in the 595th meeting was there of the Central Board, and Rajiv Ranjan was chosen, and these were the members of the MPC. Recently on a review, and you will get the PDF of this session by tomorrow, so do not worry if you are not able to read something, you will get the PDF, you can revise easily. So recently on a review, RBI has decided to enhance the existing held to maturity limit to dash and allow banks to include securities acquired between April 2022 and March 2023 under the enhanced limit. So there are, see, the banks are getting some securities, okay, they are getting some bonds and all that is held till maturity. They are keeping, the banks are keeping these securities till maturity. So the limit has been raised from, yes, I am getting the answer. That is, it has been raised to 23% of the net demand and time liabilities. Before it was 22%. That was raised in the COVID time, but actually the held till maturity percentage of the SLR securities are 19.5%. So this was in news that the percentage has been raised from 22% to 23% by of the banks. The RBI has done that so that the government can get more money in the form of, because the banks will buy the government securities, they will buy the government bonds and everything. Okay, so that's why the percentage has been raised from 22% to 23%. So this is all, and the RBI has said that by 2024 we want to decrease this percentage from 23% to 22% to 21% to 20%, and at last we will bring it back to 19.5%. And SLR securities are what? SLR securities are the SLR securities are the government securities, the government bonds, treasury bills. So those are the SLR securities. Okay. Recently, April 2022, the RBI has released the framework for compliance function and role of Chief Compliance Officer in non-banking financial companies. Which of the following NBFCs have to comply with the framework? So it has been made mandatory for some NBFCs to have the compliance function and have the Chief Compliance Officer, and it is mandatory for which of these layers? And I have started getting the answer, and most of you are saying D. Shubhankar, Shinjini, Manish, Jyoti, they are all saying D, and that is absolutely correct. It is for the middle layer and the upper layer that it has become mandatory to have the framework for the compliance function and the Chief Compliance Officer. Nothing more to study from this notification. You can have a read, but it is for the non-banking financial companies that are in the upper layer and the middle layer. Okay. Next question is, recently RBI released a circular on limits for investment in the debt and sale of credit default swaps by foreign portfolio investors. Okay, the limits for FPI investment in government securities is what? The percentage for SDLs is given 2%. By the FPIs, the foreign portfolio investors can invest 2% in the SDLs. They can invest 15% in the corporate bonds. And what percentage in the, and I have started getting the answer from Kumar, Anupriya, Vanshika. They are all saying B, and that is correct. It is 6% for the government securities. Okay. What is this credit default swap? They are the kind of derivatives. They are the kind of derivatives that are deriving their value from some underlying asset. Here the underlying asset is, they are deriving their value from the credit risk. That they are saying that we will reduce your risk, just give us some money, and if it defaults then we will pay you back or something. So that is credit default swap. We will understand it a little bit later. We have more questions on credit default swap. So I hope you have understood the FPI investment in government securities, state development loans and corporate bonds is 6%, 2% and 15% respectively. Remember this, okay? This was in the current notification. Next is, recently in April 2022, consolidated circular opening of the current account and CCOD, the credit and the overdraft accounts by banks was released by RBI. You have to tell that if it is less than this much, this crore, then there will be no restrictions. Okay, there will be no restrictions, no bondage. So what crores? Vanshika Kumar has already answered the question, that is 5 crore. That if it is less than 5 crore, banks can open the current account without any restriction. Subject to that, they will obtain an undertaking and in writing that the customer, that the borrower will tell them when the money goes more than 5 crore. Okay, they will tell the bank that yes, my borrowing has went more than 5 crore. My total borrowing has went more than 5 crore. Until 5 crore, there is no restriction on opening the current account. There is no restriction on opening the CCOD. Okay, I hope you have understood that if the person has taken 5 crore or more than 5 crore or less than 5 crore, it is less than 5 crore. If it is taken equal to 5 crore or more than 5 crore, then there will be restrictions. Okay, so here where the aggregate exposure of the banking system is rupees 5 crore or more, there are restrictions. But for borrowers where the aggregate exposure of the banking system is less than 5 crore, there are no restrictions on opening the current account or the CCOD facility. As per the recent notification of the RBI, which of the following banks is directed not to create any honorary positions or titles at board that are non-statutory, that are not under the rules. So these types of banks, what were they doing? They were creating the honorary positions or titles. So the RBI said that it is non-statutory, it is not according to the rules. So stop creating such titles. Okay. So, okay, and I am getting the answer urban cooperative banks, and that is correct. The RBI has directed the urban cooperative banks to stop creating honorary positions, titles on your own. Why are you doing that? That is non-statutory. So, the supervisory reviews that some of the urban cooperative banks were doing that, and as such UCBs are directed not to create any honorary positions or titles. Okay, next is the RBI announced modified interest subvention scheme. Diksha ma'am has already told you something about this scheme, so I hope you already know about it. So Kisan credit card, it is under the Kisan credit card, and under this it has been said that the overall limit to take the loan on lesser rate of interest is 3 lakh. Okay, if you are taking the loan for the crops, if you are taking the loan for the allied activities. But under this, what is there? That there is a sub limit. That if you are taking the loan only for the allied activities, if you are taking the loan only for the allied activities, then you can take the loan up to this much only. Okay, so I am getting the answer B, 1.5 lakh. That is not correct. Okay, Sagar has said A. That is also not correct. So here the correct answer is 2 lakh. See here, it has been said that overall limit of 3 lakh per annum subject to a maximum sub limit of 2 lakh per farmer in respect to of those farmers involved only in activities related to the animal husbandry, that is the allied activities that they are related to. So this is whole that you can see that the lending rate for farmers is 7%, the subvention they are getting is 2%, the additional subvention that they can get is also 4%. Okay, and the 3%, the 3 lakh is the total limit for the farmers that are growing the crop, that are doing their light activities, but the sub limit for only the light activities is what? It is 2 lakh only. I hope you have remembered the whole notification now. Next is, in the series of tightening norms for non-banking finance companies, the RBI in May released a notification regarding the investment grade credit rating for the NBFCs that are accepting the deposits from any of the SEBI registered credit rating agencies. So what should be the rating that is given to them? Then they should be allowed to accept the deposits. I'm getting the answer C. So good to see that you all are literally so prepared for the exam. So good to see. Fani is saying C, Drishti, Beer, Nilesh, Rishabh, Sumit, everyone is saying C, and that is absolutely correct. So this was all that was important from this notification of the May 2nd, 2022. So it was said that the minimum investment grade rating, credit rating for the deposits of NBFCs shall be BBB minus, and investment grade rating is given by the credit rating agencies that tells that how believable, how good the NBFC is. Okay, the rating agencies believe that the rated instrument is likely to meet its payment obligation, that they will give back the payment that they have taken, that they will give back the deposits that they have taken from the depositors. So this is investment grade rating. So I hope you understood this. Next is, okay, NBFCs, the static question can come. They cannot accept the demand deposits. They can only accept the time deposits. They do not form a part of the payment and settlement system, cannot issue any kind of check because they are not taking the demand deposits. Deposit insurance facility, that is DICGC facility under the DICGC Act, is not available to them. That is, their deposits are not insured. In the banks, DICGC Act ensures the deposits taken by the bank. So even if the bank is going insolvent, even if the bank is closing down, then also you will get your deposits back. Next question is, RBI reviewed the LEI guidelines, legal entity identifier guidelines for the large borrowers. On a review, it has been decided that these guidelines will be extended to which of the following? So this was a very recent notification. I have made the session on all the important notifications that are there. So I hope you know the answer of this one. It is, the guidelines are extended to the primary urban cooperative banks and the NBFCs. Okay, the guidelines are extended to these two. That is, the answer will be D. So here you can see that on a review, the guidelines has been extended to the primary urban cooperative bank and the NBFC. And what is the definition of large borrowers? Who are we calling the large borrowers? So large borrowers are those that are non-individual borrowers enjoying aggregate total exposure of 5 crore and above from the banks or financial institutions, as well as they shall be required to obtain LEI codes. Okay, so those will be obtaining the legal entity identifier code. That is, we all have Aadhaar card that is 12 digit. So they will get a 20 digit code, that is the LEI, if they have the borrowing of more than 5 crore, as well as they are non-individual. Okay. Next is 50 crore is for the cross-border transactions. These are the borrowers we are talking about. These are the borrowers we are talking about. The 50 crore that you are saying is for the cross-border transactions. Okay. Recently in April 2022, RBI advised that non-individual borrowers enjoying aggregate exposure of what? From banks and financial institutions shall be required to obtain LEI codes by April 2025. Yes, but until now the guidelines are the same. After what will happen, that we do not know now. We have to remember the facts in the exam. Okay. Yes, so I am getting the answer C, and that is correct. So the RBI has provided a guideline. Okay, it has provided the timeline that by 2023 the LEI will be provided to those who have the exposure of, who have the aggregate exposure of more than 25 crore. that have taken the loan or that have taken the investment from the banks or financial institutions of more than 25 crore, and by 2024 the LEI will have to be mandated for the non-individual borrowers that have the exposure of above 10 crore up to 25 crore. Okay, so that is by 2025 the exposure has to be rupees 5 crore and above. Then you will be mandated to, non-individual borrowers will be mandated to have the LEI number, have the legal entity identifier code. So this is all. Non-individual borrowers are the large borrowers that have the aggregate exposure of rupees 5 crore from the banks or financial institutions. Next is LEI again. Please read the question. Okay, so here the LEI is not for which of these? The LEI is exempted for which of these? You have to tell that. Yes, RBI news का playlist, that is finance current affairs. Under the finance current affairs, I have taught all the important RBI notification. This one LEI and all the important notification have been taught under the finance current affairs. You can go and check it out. I am getting the answer E from many of you. Jyoti and Arival, everyone is saying E, and that is correct. See, the LEI, if the borrower is the department or agency of the central government, if the borrower is the department or agency of the state government, then they are exempted from having the LEI code. Okay. So this is here, the borrowers who fail to obtain LEI codes from an authorized local operating unit shall not be sanctioned for the loan. So if you have not taken the LEI code according to the timeline, then you will not get any further loan, or your existing exposure will not be renewed or enhanced. But however, departments or agencies of central and state governments have been exempted from this provision, and the public sector undertakings, this is not, the public sector undertakings are not exempted because they are coming under the Companies Act. That's why public sector undertakings are not exempted. The departments can take LEI if they want, but there will be no negative impact on them if they do not have the LEI. And department, government agency means that the ISRO, the BIS and all. Next is, in India, LEI code may be obtained from Legal Entity Identifier India Limited. So this is from where the LEI code will be provided to the borrowers. A subsidiary, this is a subsidiary of the CCIL, that is Clearing Corporation of India Limited, which has been recognized by the RBI as the local operating unit under the LEI. Under which act? Under which act it has been recognized by the RBI? That you have to tell. So it is, yes, I have started getting the answer, that is A, and that is correct. Under the Payment and Settlement System Act of 2007, this has been recognized, the LEIIL and the CCIL has been recognized, or LEI, issuer of LEI has been recognized, but it has been accredited by the GLEIF, that is Global LEI Foundation, Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, as the local operating unit in India for issuance and management of the LEI. Okay, so you can see the act here. You have to remember that who is giving it, and this is the subsidiary of which, as well as which payments, which act. Okay. Next is, recently RBI released guidelines on compensation of key managerial personnel and the senior management in NBFCs on which of the following the guidelines for fixing the compensation policy of KMPs and the senior management is not applicable on. So the guidelines came under the scale-based regulatory framework. Also, it was said that there will be guidelines for compensation because too much money was given to the CEOs and the key managerial professionals and all. So that needed to be stopped, because even if they are doing a very bad job at their company, still they were getting too much money. So compensation policy guidelines were brought, but which of these are exempted from these guidelines? So I'm getting the answer C. So happy to see that all of you are answering so well. Base layer and government owned NBFCs are exempted from these guidelines. Okay. So here you can see, except the scale based framework, all the NBFCs that are coming under the scale-based framework, except those that are categorized under the base layer. Base layer, you must know, non-deposit taking NBFCs that have the asset size of less than 1000 crore, as well as the peer-to-peer account aggregator NBFCs, they also come under the base layer. Government-owned NBFCs are also exempted from this framework of the compensation of key managerial personnel and the senior management. Next is, as per the recent RBI guidelines on the compensation of KMP and the senior management in NBFCs are required to put in place a board approved compensation policy. The policy shall be at minimum include which of the following. So the broad guidelines has been provided by the RBI, and in that broad guidelines, what is the minimum criteria that the NBFC should be meeting? So which of these is correct, that you have to tell, and they have to make, yes, Chichu and Drishti, okay, Chichu is saying E, but the other, I'm getting mixed answers of D and E, but the right answer is E. They have to make the malus and clawback provision. They have to have the principles for fixed and variable pay structure. They have to constitute the remuneration committee, because we are talking about compensation, we are talking about money. So a committee has to be made. Okay, pay has to be fixed or variable, as well as malus and clawback provision should be there. So these are the minimum criteria, and this will be effective from April 1, 2023, that is from later year, that is from next year, and these are the minimum that should include all of these three that I have told you. Now you have to tell that the definition is about which. A dash is a contractual agreement between the employee and the NBFC in which the employee agrees to return previously paid or in vested remuneration. So if the person has gotten the money from the company, the person has to pay back the money if it has done something bad. So yes, the playlist for all of this is present. I am getting the answer A, and that is correct. Clawback, that is taking back the money that you have given. So this is all that the deferred compensation. Malus is what? That you have not paid and you have stopped the payment that you had to give. Clawback is you have paid but you are taking it back. Okay, so you can read the definition and it will be applied if the financial system is not good, if the employee has done some misconduct, if the negative financial performance is there, then the malus and clawback provision will be there. That is, the deferred payments, the payments that has been postponed will not be given, or clawback means that the payment that has been given will be taken back. Okay. Next is, as per the guidelines on compensation of key managerial personnel and senior management, you have to tell that which of these statements is correct according to the nomination and remuneration committee. Okay, so I have started getting the answer. See, this one is correct. Boards of all applicable NBFCs have to constitute NRC because this is the minimum criteria. NRC may work in close coordination with risk management committee because the risk and remuneration are going in hand. That is, if the risk is higher, if bad financial situation is there, less compensation will be given and such. NRC with RMC, that is Risk Management Committee, will oversee the framing and review and implementation of the compensation policy. This is wrong because only the NRC, Nomination and Remuneration Committee, has to look after the framing, review and implementation of the compensation policy. RMC is not being talked about the compensation policy. NRC may also ensure fit and proper status of the proposed and existing directors. This is also correct. They have to see that they are working, the directors are working well or not. So this is all about the NRC, that is under the section 178 Companies Act 2013. The NRC has been defined that what should be the powers and what should be the constitution functions of the NRC. Next is, recently RBI released prudential guidelines on exposure norms aimed at addressing credit risk concentration in NBFCs. These instructions set out to identify large exposure. So there was a notification regarding the large exposure framework. You have to tell that the guidelines are prescribed for which category of the NBFC. So this large exposure framework is for which NBFC, which prescribed category of the NBFC. So I've started getting the answer. Some are saying B, some are saying C. Shri Kunj is saying C, and that is the right answer. The right answer is only and only C. So the large exposure framework is only for the non-banking financial company that are coming under the upper layer of the scale-based regulatory framework. So C, directly you can see it is only for the upper layer. Yes, nice, okay. So these instructions will be applicable from October 1st, 2022. So very good who said the upper layer. Directly from the notification. Next is large exposure means what? What is the definition of large exposure? That you have to tell. Yes, I will be explaining the framework through the questions. We will be explaining the framework. First, understand that what is large exposure, then we will talk about the framework also. So we have 5 questions on this. You will have very good clarity about the framework through these 5 questions. So I'm getting the answer E, but the right answer for this one is D, that is 10%. So large exposure means the sum of all exposure that the NBFC upper layer is giving. Okay, all the money that it is giving to a counterparty, to a single counterparty or group of connected counterparties, if it is equal or above the 10% of the eligible capital base. Eligible capital base means 10% of tier 1 capital. So if the NBFC upper layer is giving more than 10% of the tier 1 capital to one counterparty or the group of connected counterparties, it will be called large exposure. Okay, we are talking about the definition. We are not talking about the limits right now. I will tell you the limits later. So this is the definition. As well as tier 1 capital is what? That is the liquid capital that can help the company when it is in the distress situation. You can read all of this about the tier 1 capital. I will provide you the PDF by tomorrow. So this is now the framework. Now in the framework, we have understood large exposure. So the NBFC sometimes give too much money to one counterparty or to the group of connected counterparties. So to stop that, the limitations are there. Now you have to tell that the 25% limit is on the NBFC UL that is providing the tier 1 capital. Okay, 25% of the tier 1 capital to the group of connected counterparties. What is the extra limit that they can go to if they are investing in or if they are providing the exposure to the infrastructure loan or the investment? So 25% is the limit of the NBFC upper layer if it is giving the loan to the group of connected counterparties, but they can go how much extra percentage if it is the counterparty or the other party is taking the loan for the infrastructure loan or the investment in infrastructure. I am getting the answer B, that is 10% from Roshan, Nilesh, and that is the right answer. They can go 10% extra that you can see. So for the NBFC UL, that is upper layer, that is infrastructure finance company, the total limit is 35% for the group of counterparties. But the limit for NBFC UL sole, that is not the infrastructure finance company, that is 25%, but they can go extra 10% if the money is going to the infrastructure loan or investment. So here also it will come 35% when you will talk about the infrastructure finance. Okay. Next is RBI has released the large exposure framework. As per the framework, what percentage of eligible capital base shall not be exceeded for the single counterparty by the NBFC infrastructure finance company? There we were talking about the group of counterparties. Here we are talking about the single counterparty. So remember where the group and where the single is being talked about. Here tell me the answer for the single counterparty, and that also not only the NBFC UL, but we are talking about the NBFC UL, that is IFC. Okay, I'm getting the answer B, and Shubhankar has said E, and that is the right answer. This is the right answer. E is the right answer. Here I will tell you everything about the framework in 2 minutes. Okay, so it is the framework is for the single counterparty or group of counterparties. For the NBFC UL, that is not a infrastructure finance company. For the single counterparty, the limit is 20%, but additional 5% can go if the board is approving, or additional 5% can go if the infrastructure loan or investment is being given. That is total 25%, not more than 25% should go to a single counterparty. Okay, from these two only one can happen, that you can understand. 25%, that is the total that you can go. For the NBFC UL, that is a IFC Infrastructure Finance Company, that can give 25% as the limit. But it can exceed 5% if the board is approving it. Infrastructure Finance Company means it is giving the finance only for the infrastructure. Okay. Next is group of connected counterparties. The limit is 25%, but additional 10% can happen if the exposure is for the infrastructure loan or investment. That is 35% in total. For the single counterparty, here the total is 35% because of costly IFC is giving money for the infrastructure only. Okay. Next is, recently RBI has released the large exposure framework. As per the framework, which among the following exposures are not exempted from the LEI? So which of these are exempted, not exempted from LEI? So these notifications can come in the phase 1. As I have shown you, the first question that was from the notification, that was a 3-line that you saw, that it was a very big question that came. Okay, so such kind of questions can also come. So you have to understand the whole framework, because one-liners can be formed. Just 5% if the board is approving, or 5% if the infrastructure loan is being given. Okay. So here the right answer is this one. This is the wrong statement, because investment, see, the LEF is for the investment companies also, infrastructure companies also. So of course it is not exempted. Infrastructure companies are not exempted because infrastructure finance companies also have the regulations of 35% of 30%. So this is absolutely wrong. So these are the correct: exposure to government, exposure to fully guaranteed government interest and principal, or investment in the equity capital of the insurance company. So these are the exemptions. Next is, as per the master direction, credit card and debit card issuance and conduct directions 2022, released in April 2022 by RBI, the provisions of these directions related to credit card shall apply to every scheduled bank, excluding which of the following? So the credit card and the debit card, the rules have come, the conduct have come. So it is for all of those. Out of mind, read around 5 times, still not able to recall. That is because, see, practice through questions now. Practice through questions and you will be able to understand that where you are lacking, which notification, which area you are lacking. Okay, so the answer I am getting is A. That is absolutely correct. It is only the payments bank that have been excluded from this credit card and debit card issuance and conduct directions. So all the scheduled banks, excluding the payment banks, no, the answer is all of the above. So all the banks, all the scheduled banks, excluding payments bank, the state cooperative bank, and even the district cooperative bank, they have been exempted. They have been exempted from these directions. So remember that all of the above is the right answer here. Master direction have come for the credit card, that who will issue the credit card and the debit card, what conduct they have to take. Okay, so the excluding banks are payment banks, the state cooperative bank, and the district cooperative bank. Recently, the RBI has announced new guidelines for issuance of credit card, debit card. You have to tell that which of these statements is incorrect. See, I have brought such questions for you so that you become, whatever level of paper will come, you will be able to give the right answer if you are able to solve such kind of questions. Yes, payments bank cannot issue the credit card, so of course it is not for them. So here the right answer for this one is only 2. First statement is correct, that under the conduct, under the guidelines, it has been said that if the customer do not want to get the credit card, why are you forcing the customer? So unsolicited cards or the upgradation is strictly prohibited. As well as any request for closure have to be completed within 7 working days. It is not 2, it is 7. scheduled urban cooperative banks with minimum net worth of 100 crore. That is absolutely correct. So urban cooperative banks have been allowed to issue the credit card or to work with the credit card, but the district cooperative banks and the state cooperative banks have been excluded from these guidelines. But the scheduled urban cooperative bank with minimum net worth of 100 crore, if they have the core banking solution enabled, may issue credit card subject to some guidelines that we will see. Yes, they have to close the card in 7 days. Under 7 days, they have to close the card. So these are the guidelines. The total unsecured loans and advances granted via UCB to its members together with cumulative approved credit card. How much loan, total loan that they can give to its member, that you have to tell that it should not exceed what percentage of its total assets. So the total unsecured loans, that is unsecured means without collateral. When you take the credit card, you are not giving any collateral, okay? So without collateral, how much it can give? How much percentage? Aviral is saying 10%, Rishika is saying 10%, and that is correct. It is 10%. So these are the guidelines that the urban cooperative banks can give, can do the credit cards, but these are the guidelines that they have to do the application. They have to give the application to the regional office of the Reserve Bank. They can only issue the credit cards to their regular members or the nominal members, as well as they cannot have total unsecured loans that is exceeding 10%. They can only have the unsecured loans up to 10%, that is credit card or whatever other unsecured loans that they are giving. Next is recently RBI issued master directions, and in that scheduled commercial banks other than regional rural banks with net worth of dash and above are permitted to undertake credit card business. See, the level of questions are, they are not very tough. As why I am saying that, because these are from only the important notifications. There are only 2 or 3 important notifications in the May month. In the April month, there are only 5. The LEI is important. The credit card, the debit card notification is important. So these are the questions are only from the important notification, and the questions will come from the important notifications. Okay, mostly. So important notification you have to remember. You have to remember the important things from those. So it is 100 crore. For the scheduled urban cooperative banks, if they want to do the credit card business, 100 crore is the limit, as well as for the scheduled commercial banks also 100 crore is the net worth requirement. So net worth requirement is the most important thing that you have to remember. So it is for the SCBs other than regional rural banks with net worth of 100 crore, they are able to take the credit card, as well as RRBs are permitted to issue the credit card in collaboration with sponsor bank or other banks. So these are the eligibility criteria. Very easy once you read it. SCB 100 crore net worth, UCB 100 crore net worth, as well as they have some guidelines like 10% only they can have this unsecured loans, and non-banking financial companies, if they are registered with the regional, if they are registered with the RBI, if they are approved by the RBI. Very easy. There are 2 or 3 things. Recently, RBI released guidelines for banks to open digital banking units. So these are the some of the guidelines for the digital banking unit. You have to tell that which of these guidelines are not is incorrect. Okay, which of the following statement is or are incorrect regarding the guidelines for the DBUs, that is digital banking units. Harsha, I didn't understand your question. Can you repeat the question? If you are asking that where the this all is there, this is in the notification only. Okay, the eligibility is given in the notification only. So here the right answer is E, yes. Of course, if the question is very easy. If you just jumble up with the words, that is a different thing, but the question is very easy because a bank will not work without the backend. How can a bank work without a backend? Everything involves backend. Okay, so they cannot have only the front end or distribution layer, they should have the backend also. So this is the wrong statement. So very easy. The minimum products that they have to give is the liability, asset, and the digital services through online process. Liabilities, they have to take the deposit. Asset is, they have to give the loans, and digital services, they have to give the DBUs of banks will be treated as banking outlets only, as well as the guidelines for establishment is applied on the scheduled commercial banks only, without excluding the regional rural banks, local area banks and the payments bank. The operational governance and administration structure of the DBUs will be same as other banking segment, other digital segment. So this is the notification of the RBI in which the minimum products are there, the front end and back end are there. Back end is what? The core banking system that connects different branches. Okay. Next is digital banking experience will be permitted to open. The banks with past digital banking experience will be permitted to open DBUs if in which tier of the cities, centers you have to tell. Very easy question. And the banks are only the scheduled commercial banks, not the regional rural banks, not the local area banks or the small finance bank. Instead of conceptual clarity, just go for cramming. Just go for cramming and you will be good for that. Just remember the percentages, that will be good. In the LEF, the whole framework is about the percentages. What is the definition? What is the percentages? For the DBUs, very easy to remember that what is the DBU, digital banking unit. So according to that. So yes, I am getting the answer C, and that is correct. It is for tier 1 to tier 6. So the banks will be permitted to open the tier 1 to tier 6 centers, the DBUs. Okay. Next is, as per the data released by the National Statistical Office in May 2022, you have to tell the inflation, the CPI inflation that has crossed what? Why this is there? Because the RBI wants to keep the inflation in the range of 2% to 6%. That is plus 4% and minus 4%. So the RBI wants to keep the inflation around 4%, but it has breached the level of 6%. In the January it was 6.01%, in February 6.07%, March 6.95%, and now in April it has crossed this mark. So the right answer is 7.79%. So next is, RBI released a notification on May 2022. You have to tell that the small finance bank are allowed to lend to registered NBFC microfinance institutions if the microfinance institutions have the gross loan portfolio of which how much crore. Okay. So how much crores of the portfolio they should have? Okay, I am getting the answer B, and that is absolutely correct. It is rupees 500 crore. So see what happens, that the small finance banks and the scheduled commercial banks, they have some priority sector lending targets that they have to achieve, but they cannot achieve it themselves because like they have to give a major portion of their loans to the priority sector. So what they do, that they give the money, they give the loans to the eligible intermediaries, that is NBFCs, and NBFCs give it to the agriculture or the other priority sector borrowers. So the SFBs are allowed to lend to registered NBFC MFIs if they have the gross loan portfolio of up to rupees 500 crore. Next is, bank credit to NBFCs for on lending will be allowed up to an overall limit of dash of an individual bank's total priority sector lending in case of commercial banks. So the commercial banks can give what percentage to the NBFCs for the total priority sector? The RBI has said that this will be now ongoing basis, that the banks can continuously give money to the NBFC so that they can do the priority sector target. Okay, 5%, that is the right answer. Akhil has said 5%, that is absolutely right. For the bank to give to NBFCs, it is 5%, and for the SFBs to give to NBFC MFIs, the overall limit is 10%. So that is absolutely correct. Next is, you have to tell the priority sector lending target for the small finance bank, because the static questions can come from the current news. So here it is very easy. You have to tell the small finance bank have the priority sector lending target of how much. So I am getting the answer from Tanya, that is D. Vanshika is saying C, that is correct. It is 75% of the ANPC and the CEOB. So it is for the domestic commercial banks, it is 40%. For the foreign banks with less than 20 branches, regional rural banks and the small finance bank, it is 75%. Next is a new subsidiary, a wholly owned subsidiary. RBI has launched something and that has become the wholly owned subsidiary of the RBI. So which of these is the new wholly owned subsidiary of the RBI? That you have to tell. Very easy question, I must say. 10 to 11 questions of the RBI notification I have shown in the starting of the session, that what kind of questions come, as well as 10 to 11 questions come in the RBI phase 1, in the RBI grade B phase 1 exam. Okay, so I'm getting the answer E. That is absolutely correct. So the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub has become the new wholly owned subsidiary of the RBI. So these are the wholly owned subsidiaries of the RBI. NHB was the wholly owned subsidiary, but in the 2019 the RBI divested, and that's why the NHB is no more the wholly owned subsidiary. These are the wholly owned subsidiary of RBI. Next is RBI has set up the RBIH as a Section 8 company with the initial capital contribution of how much? So you have to tell that how much initial contribution it had. Okay, I am getting the answer E, but it is, the answer of this one is 100 crore. So it is A only, that is 100 crore of the initial capital contribution has been done in the RBIH. Okay. Next is SEBI in May. Now we will do RBI as well as some of the questions of SEBI. That is very important for the examination point of view, because 1 or 2 questions can come from the SEBI also. So some of the important news of the SEBI we will take care of. So the SEBI has created this committee on the secondary market, and this committee will be chaired by, this advisory committee will be chaired by who? So the Madhavi Puri Bush was the previous chairperson of this committee, and who will be the new one? Everyone is saying G. Mahalingam, and that is correct. So G. Mahalingam will be the new member, new head of the committee, and before the committee was of a 17 member, now the committee is of 18 members. Okay, and this will be chaired by G. Mahalingam. Next is SEBI has reconstituted its committee alerts, and you have to tell that what is the full form of alerts or what this S stands for. So this committee is also very important because this was created recently only. The alerts was created recently only, and I am getting the answers. A. Vanshika is saying, and that is correct. The alerts full form is Advisory Committee for Leveraging Regulatory and Technology Solutions, and this was constructed in December 2021. So it was a very new committee that has been formed, and recently the chairperson has been changed. Okay. Next is recently which of the following banks signed a MOU with the CBDT and the CBIC and has been authorized to collect the taxes under the permission of the RBI. So I am getting the answer E. Dhanlakshmi Bank, and that is correct. The answer is Dhanlakshmi Bank that has been that has done the MOU with the CBDT and the CBIC to collect the tax. Next is which of the following has signed a MOU with the Manitoba Securities Commission Canada for mutual cooperation, exchange of information and technical assistance. So here the answer is SEBI. SEBI has done this. Has signed a MOU with the Manitoba Securities Commission, because securities is the area, security market is the area that SEBI looks after. Okay. Next is recently in May 2022, which of the following has been granted the recognition as an accreditation agency by SEBI? So here, which of the following? See, all of these three have been given the accreditation agency, but which of these has been given the accreditation agency recognition in May 2022? That is very recently, and the answer for this one is A, that is NSDL Database Management Limited. So the CDSL got the permission in Jan 2022, and it will be starting operating from Feb 1 2022. That is CDSL Ventures will start the accreditation. Recently, the NSDL Database Management has got the accreditation, the recognition as a accreditation agency. That is, it will check all the KYC and all details about the accredited investors. Accredited investors are the big investors, and they are very important for the market. Recently, Reserve Bank of India has decided to lower the net worth requirement of non-bank Bharat Bill Payment Operating Units to Rs 25 crore from what? So currently you have to tell that what is the number, what is the net worth requirement for the BP POUs, that has to be reduced to 25 crore as per the RBI. So currently, yes, I am getting the answer from Drishti and Lochan and everyone are saying 100 crore, that is correct. So 100 crore is the net worth requirement that was there, and the RBI said that we want to reduce it to rupees 25 crore. Next is RBI released the master circular on asset reconstruction company. You have to tell that what is the minimum net owned fund required for the ARC to work on an ongoing basis. What is the net owned fund that is required by the ARCs? Okay, I am getting the answer 100 crore, and that is absolutely correct. The net owned fund for the ARC shall be minimum 100 crore on an ongoing basis. As per the recent Monetary Policy Committee meeting of April 2022, what is the current fixed reverse repo rate? So the fixed reverse repo rate has not been changed, and you have to tell that what percentage is the current fixed reverse repo rate. Okay, I am getting the answer B, that is 3.75%. Okay, Akshita is saying D, and that is absolutely correct. It is 3.35%. So the reverse repo rate percentage has not been changed. So do not get confused in this one. It is still 3.35%. Okay. So next is cardless cash withdrawal through ATMs is permitted by the RBI, and RBI has said that it will make it mandatory for the banks to do interoperable cardless cash withdrawal. That without the card you can take out the cash, and in any of the ATM, if you have the account in any bank, you can take it out, take the money out from any other bank's ATM also, and through which now you do not have the card, so through which facility you will be taking out the money. So I'm getting the answer D, that is UPI, and that is absolutely correct. Through the UPI now you can take out the money. The RBI has not released the complete guidelines. It has just told about this, that through UPI you will be doing it. Next is IMPS offers an interbank electronic fund. You have to tell that upper limit of the transaction for the IMPS is what now? It is a very easy question, I must say, and the limit has been raised from 2 lakhs to 5 lakh. Okay, from 2 lakh to 5 lakh. This was a statement from the statement after the MPC meeting, and it has been raised from 2 lakh to 5 lakh, and through the SMS or through the IVRS the limit is 5,000. So recently the Reserve Bank of India notified ASBA designated branches to remain open for the public on Sunday also. That is for the LIC IPO. Now you have to tell that what this SBI stands for. You have to tell the second A. This A, what does this stands for? Okay, I am getting the mixed answers, a lot of mixed answers, but okay. The right answer for this one is amount. Yes, Nilesh has said B, and Drishti has said B, that is amount. So ASBA is application supported by blocked amount. So your money gets blocked in your amount if you have put the money, if you have asked for the lot for the IPO, for the initial public offering. If you want to invest, if you want to get the share, your money gets blocked until you get the lot or you do not get the lot. Okay, so that is ASBA that you can read. Next is recently in March 2022, the Reserve Bank released a booklet. What is the name of the booklet that was released for the modus operandi used by the fraudsters and the precautions to be taken? Very easy question. A booklet has been launched by the RBI recently only. So what is the name of the booklet? I am getting the answer C, and that is absolutely correct. It is Be Aware or Beware. Okay. So it has been launched. The booklet has been launched by the RBI. Now you have to tell that under which department this initiative of launching the book has been taken. So under which department? Department of Communication, Consumer Education and Protection, Department of Regulation, Financial Inclusion, or the Human Resource Management. Very easy one. I am getting the answer B or C for this one. How many questions are there? We are halfway there, so we will go fast now. Yes, the right answer for this one is B. I am getting the right answer from Lochan, Srikunj, Roshan. Everyone is saying B, and that is correct. It is under, the booklet is part of the public awareness initiative by the Consumer Education and Protection Department. Okay. Next is Reserve Bank of India has launched which of the following 24/7 helpline to address the queries of the digital payment users across products? That you have to tell. Very easy question. It was too much in news, and yes, I am getting the right answer. It is Digi Sati that has been launched by the RBI 24/7 helpline. Anything you want to know about the digital system, you can know through this system. Next is, in how many language the Digi Sati will be helping the consumers to get the information, that you have to tell. Okay, so the Digi Sati will be in how many of the following languages? I am getting the answers. So it will be in Hindi, English, various Indian regional languages, A and B only, or all of the above. So I am getting the answer. Some are saying B, some are saying C. Okay, I am getting the answer D, and D is the right answer. So Tanya was the one that gave the right answer. It is only available in Hindi and English. Later on, it has been said that the RBI said that later on more languages, various regional languages will be added. But for now, it is only for Hindi. It is only available in Hindi and English. You can get the information in Hindi and English. Now the RBI has launched UPI 123 Pay for the feature phone users, and you have to tell that there are 4 distinct options through which you can pay. So which of these is not the method through which you can pay through the feature phones? Okay, I am getting the answer D. Okay, Vanshika, Manish are saying A, and that is correct. Through the UPI 123 Pay, scan QR code is not available. You cannot scan the QR code and you cannot pay through the QR code. The missed call system is there, the interactive voice response system is there through which you can pay, or through the proximity sound based or through the app based functionality you can pay. Through these 4 ways the UPI 123 Pay is available. Next is Reserve Bank launched UPI 123 Pay. You have to tell that which of these statements is correct, is incorrect regarding UPI 123 Pay. So UPI 123 Pay is a 3-step method to initiate and execute services. That is absolutely correct. That is choose karo, pay karo. That is the 3-line system is there. That is call karo, choose karo and pay karo. So it is a 3-step method that is there. It doesn't need an internet connection. That is absolutely correct. Customers will also be able to set or change UPI pins through UPI 123 Pay. That is also correct. Customers do not have to link their bank account. That is wrong. They have to link the bank account, then only they can use the UPI. You all must have used the UPI now. So UPI 123 Pay is kind of same. It also needs the bank account to be linked. It is available in various Indian languages. Yes, Digi Sati only in Hindi and English, but UPI 123 Pay in various Indian languages. Okay. So this is all the information that is there. Next is the grievance redressal mechanism is there. RBI in its press release clarifies on the mode of receipt of complaints under dash, that you can receive the complaint. The RBI will be receiving the complaint under which of the scheme? Yes, e-rupee doesn't need the bank account. We will do a question on that also. Very good, Drishti. I am getting the answer D, that is integrated ombudsman scheme. Yes, whenever we are talking about the grievance redressal mechanism, we are talking about the ombudsman. Okay, so as simple as that. So it was what was happening, that there were many participants in the market that were saying that you pay us and we will lodge the complaint for you under the integrated ombudsman. But RBI said that there is no payment that has to be taken. Okay, so it has come to the notice of RBI that there is misinformation being spread, that through the social media, that you have to pay for the integrated ombudsman. Okay, if you want to lodge the complaint. So RBI has clarified that there is no such thing as paying for integrated ombudsman. Now you have to tell that which has been added in the IFI. So there were All India Financial Institutions. So there were 4 All India Financial Institutions before. Now 1 more has been added, so in total there are 5 now. Yes, I am getting the answer B, NAFED, that is correct. So there were 4 before, that is Exim Bank, Export and Import Bank, the NABARD, that is for the agriculture, NHB, that is for the housing, SIDBI, that is for the small industries. Now the NAFED has been added, that is National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. Remember the full form. The full form can be asked that what I stands for or something like that. Next is, which of the following banks was directed by the Reserve Bank of India in March 2022 that it will have to stop the onboarding of new customers until the IT audit completes? Yes, IDBI it was not. There were 4 before, Exim Bank, NABARD, NHB and SIDBI. So NABFID has become the new one. IDBI was for you to get confused. Okay, I'm getting the answer. Paytm Payments Bank, that is correct. So the Paytm Payments Bank is the payments bank that has been notified by the RBI that it has to stop the onboarding of the customers until it completes the IT audit and until the RBI permits. Yeah, I'm very bad at saying infrastructure like in a very fast manner. I don't know why. So RBI released framework for geotagging of payment system touch points. Which of the following statement is or are incorrect regarding the this framework? So such kind of questions has been brought for you, the statement ones, so that you become accustomed with the whole framework, so that I can explain the whole framework. Yes, we have to end the session in 2 hours, I guess. So I'm going a little fast, as well as all the notifications has been covered under the finance current affairs session. So I hope that you have covered it well. Or if you want to have the deeper understanding, in-depth understanding, the sessions have been made under the current finance current affairs sessions. The playlist is there. All the important notifications has been explained in depth. I have taken all those sessions, so you can go through that. So yes, I am getting the answer E, but that is not correct. The correct one is this. We have to tell which of these is incorrect. So only the banks and non-bank PSOs, NBFCs is wrong here. Okay, so geotagging refers to capturing the geographical coordinates of the touch point. Touch point here is the POS terminals and the QR codes. So here when the banks and the non-bank PSOs is written, that is NBFCs are not needed here. It was not in the notification. So geotagging information in respect of POS terminal, this is correct. Paper-based QR code, this is correct. Reporting will be in the CIMS because all the reporting of the RBI is done in the CIMS. So the wrong one was the B statement, as you can see that the banks and the non-bank PSOs shall capture and maintain geographical coordinates. Okay, so it is the work of banks and non-bank PSOs. Next is, which of these information they have to collect? The banks and the non-bank PSOs have to collect which of these informations? So here the correct answer for this one is D, A and B. Yes, the information will be collected for the merchant related information and the payment acceptance infrastructure. So the information related to the merchant as well as the information related to the payment acceptance, that is being done through the POS terminals and through the QR code. Next is the establishment of the Learning and Development Center of Bharatiya Reserve Bank Note Mudran Private Limited has been done. This has been established with active collaboration from which of the following? I am getting the answer D. Here the active collaboration is from which of the following, that you have to tell. I am getting the answer B. See, here the right answer is LDC is being established with active collaboration with Security Printing and Minting Corporation of India Limited. That is correct. But here the Bank Note Paper Mill India Private Limited is also there. So the active collaboration from both of these was there, and through the active collaboration of these two, the Learning and Development Center has been made. This is a joint venture of the main and the this one CPMCIL. So the right answer is D. The right answer is E here, B and C. The Bharatiya Reserve Bank Note Mudran is under the Reserve Bank of India. But the Reserve Bank is not collaborating directly because this organization is directly under the Reserve Bank of India. The active collaboration is from the Security Printing Minting Corporation of India as well as from the Bank Note Paper Mill India. So in this we are covering Feb, March, April, May. Okay, in this session, tomorrow's session, other months will be covered. So now here you have to tell that LDC is being governed by which of the centers. Why is this confusion? Why it's simple here. Only the banks and the non-banks PSOs will capture the geographical location and will capture the maintain geographical coordinates. The NBFCs are not defined in the circular, and that's why the B statement is wrong. Now coming back to this one, which of these is being governed? Okay, most of the you are saying E, but here as you can see that this center, the LDC, will be governed by the main organization that is making it. See, this is making it. The Learning and Development Center is under the Bharatiya Reserve Bank Node Mudran Private Limited. These are only the collaborators, but the look after will be under which the LDC is made, under which the LDC is directly coming, and that's why this center LDC will be governed by BRB and MPL. Okay, yes. Next is recently. That's why I brought such questions. Such questions can be very confusing. Even if you know the answer, you can get confused. That's why you have to read it carefully. You have to cram it. That's it. Recently, the Governor of Reserve Bank of India has inaugurated Varnika, which is Dash Manufacturing Unit. What does it manufacture? Ink. Yes, very good. That is the right answer. It is manufacturing ink. Next is WMA, that is Ways and Means Advances, has been released by the RBI in consultation with the Government of India. The limit has been released for April 2022 to September 2022. What is the limit that you have to tell? 1,50,000. Yes, Roshan is saying correct. Sandeep is saying correct. All of you is correct. That is 1,50,000 is the limit that has been released by the RBI. So WMA is what that you can read. It is given to the government, central and the state government, and these government have to return the money under 3 months, not later than 3 months. Next is RBI released the statement on development and regulatory policies in which enhancement of the cap under e-rupee was done. E-rupee is the voucher. What is the new limit under the e-rupee? That you have to tell. I am getting the answer B. Here the right answer will be, before the limit was 10,000. Before the limit for the e-rupee voucher was 10,000, but in February it has been increased to 1 lakh. I am getting the right answer from Srikunj, from Kumar and Drishti. They are saying right that it is C. The limit has been raised to 1 lakh. Okay, so it has been raised from 10,000 to 1 lakh. Now you have to read these statements and you have to tell that which of these statements is incorrect regarding e-rupee. Very easy to understand. E-rupee is backed by the existing Indian rupee. E-rupee beneficiaries do not need a bank account. The digital payment solution has been developed with the support of NPCI, DFS and NHA. One voucher can be used only once, even if it is not fully redeemed. So which of these is incorrect? I hope you can easily tell this. Very easy. Yes, so I am getting the answer D, and that is correct. This statement is not right because the voucher can be used multiple times until it is fully redeemed. So the wrong is this one. This is correct. Indian rupee is backing the e-rupee voucher. E-rupee beneficiaries do not need a bank account. This is just a voucher that you can use. Digital payment solution has been developed by the NPCI with collaboration with DFS and the NHA. Okay. So this is all about the e-rupee, as well as under schemes. The voucher can be published under the schemes like Ayushman Bharat, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana and more, as well as the corporates can also give the e-rupee vouchers. It is not only the government that is giving the e-rupee voucher. So this is all. Rupees 1 lakh per voucher is the new limit. One voucher can be used multiple times until it is fully redeemed. Next is RBI released a notification regarding the investment in umbrella organization by which of the following bank. So which of the following bank can invest in the umbrella organization? That you have to tell. Okay. So the time limit that you can see is going up. So try to answer this fast. Yes, Primary Urban Cooperative Bank. Roshan has said C. And Nitish has said C, Pratiksha has said C. That is absolutely correct. It is for the Primary Urban Cooperative Bank that the limit was there, that the investment in umbrella organization is there, as well as now you have to tell that there is a limit of what percentage of the bank's total deposits for their investment in non-SLR securities if the investment made for subscribing to the capital of the UO. So now this limit will not be there if you are investing in UO. So the primary urban cooperative bank can invest in umbrella organization, and the limit that was before will not be applicable if you are investing in UO. So you will be exempted, the primary urban cooperative bank will be exempted from this, and everyone is saying C, and that is absolutely correct. The limit was 10% and now you will be exempted. So here non-SLR investments will continue to be limited at 10% of a bank. So this was a prior notification of 2009, but it has been said in the new notification that if you are doing the investment in the umbrella organization. Now, which is the umbrella organization? National Federation of Urban Cooperative Banks and Credit Society. Then you will be exempted from this 10%, of the total deposits, or from this limit you will be exempted. Okay. Next is RBI extended the interest equalization scheme. You have to tell that which of these statement is incorrect. So this is a scheme that is under the RBI, so you have to tell it. Okay, I am getting the answer C, and that is absolutely correct. First is correct, it is extended till March 2024, and telecom instruments shall be out of the purview of the scheme. That is also correct. The interest equalization rates are 2% and 3% for the specified categories. Okay, so this statement is wrong, and that's why the answer is C. So here you can see that interest equalization scheme is for the export credit. It is there for the exporters to get the subsidy. This has been extended till 2024. Next is, which of these schemes beneficiaries will not be able to get the benefits under the interest equalization scheme? So which of these schemes beneficiaries who are availing the benefits under which of these will not be able to get the benefits under the interest equalization scheme? If you are reading it for the last minute, just go through the important notifications. Like the LEI is important because the numbers are there. Just cram the numbers, just cram the percentages of the recent ones, as well as remember the PCA, remember the scale based. So see which notifications are important, cram that. E, yes, absolutely correct. Production linked incentive scheme have been, if you are availing the benefits under the PLI scheme, you will not be able to get the benefits under the interest equalization scheme. So the extended scheme of the interest equalization will not be available to those beneficiaries who are availing the benefit under the PLI scheme. Next is, RBI has announced directions on regulatory framework for microfinance loans. Which of the following is excluded from the directions? So the microfinance loans are the small loans, we can say small loans that are non-collateral, or we can say that are collateral free loans that is given to the households. So which of these is correct? Okay, I am getting the answer B. Yes, that is correct. It is for the payments bank. The payments bank have been excluded from these guidelines regarding the microfinance loan. So the microfinance loan guidelines are applicable to the commercial banks, including the small finance bank, local area banks, regional rural banks, excluding the payments bank. So the right answer is payments bank have been excluded. Now you have to tell that which of these statement is incorrect. If you have seen a little bit of this direction now, then also you will be able to tell the answer very easily. Which of the statement is incorrect? If you know the definition of microfinance, the definition of microfinance is very important. Direct question can come from the definition of microfinance. Payments bank cannot give loan. That's why they have not been included under the microfinance loan guidelines. So here the microfinance loan, see, the new definition says that the microfinance loans, yes, C is the right answer. A is wrong. The new definition says that the microfinance loans are the loans that are up to 3 lakh. Before the limit was 2 lakh for the urban and semi-urban, and 1.25 lakh for the rural. But now the microfinance loan have the definition that microfinance loans are up to 3 lakh. That is for rural, urban, everyone. As well as they are collateral free loans, irrespective of the end use that anyone is doing. You can take the loan and do anything that you want to do with the loan. And there should be a board approved policy to provide the flexibility in the periodicity. Maybe the household is not able to pay back because COVID has come or some bad situation has come. So there should be the flexibility in repayment for the households. Okay. As well as there is no prepayment penalty. If you want to prepay, if the loan is of 1 year but you want to pay in 6 months, you can pay. There is no prepayment penalty. No. I don't think, like, just revise from earlier. Just see the important questions that you think that can come directly. Just cram it. So this is the definition. Next is RBI issued a new directions for microfinance lending. The NBFC, MFIs, the microfinance institutions that are giving the microfinance lending, they were giving 85% of their loans to the microfinance, to the small households, to the household as the microfinance loan. But now they will give how much percentage to the microfinance loans as the microfinance loans. Before they had to give 85% of their loans as microfinance loans, but the percentage has been reduced to, I'm getting the answer 75%, and that is correct. The percentage has been reduced to 75%. Now they only have to give 75% as the loans. Okay. Minimum 85% they had to give before, but now they have to give only 75% of the total asset. Before they had to give 85% of the total asset. 85% of the total asset as loan for the microfinance loans, that are loans that do not have the collateral, that are up to 3 lakh. But now it is 75% of the loans they have to give to microfinance as microfinance loans. Next is the NBFC that are not MFIs. That are not MFIs, they were allowed to give 10% as MFIs, as microfinance loans, but now they will be allowed to give what percentage as microfinance loans? 25%. Yes, absolutely correct. It is 25%. Before they were able to give 10% as microfinance loans, but now the NBFC that are not microfinance institutions, they will be able to give 25% of their total assets as microfinance loans. Okay, so it is 25%, before it was 10%. Which of the following bank has been given the lead bank responsibility for the new district that has been created in the state of Meghalaya? Very easy. Lead bank is the bank that have the responsibility to do financial inclusion, to make more branches, make the NBFC or the other banks that are working in that state to push for the financial inclusion. So which of these banks have been given the lead bank responsibility? So it is Punjab National Bank. New bank is the new district is the Eastern West Khasi Hills, and the Punjab National Bank has been given the lead bank responsibility. Next is first entity in India that got the payments bank license. Payments bank is too much in news. That's why this question can come. Okay. There won't be 100 questions. There will be only 90 questions for today. So we are near to the end, and for tomorrow there will be such questions only. So it is, yes, Airtel Payments Bank is the correct answer. So I hope now last 10 questions, last 11, 12 questions, just give your all. Okay, try to give all the right answers now. So as per the Master Direction, Reserve Bank of India Credit Derivatives Directions 2022 released in Feb 2022, which of the following entity or entities shall be eligible to be the market maker in the credit derivative in the OTC market? So which of these can become the market maker? Market makers are the big entities, are the very big entities that can buy and sell both in the over-the-counter market, or that can buy or sell both in the credit derivatives, because they are so big. So many of you are saying E, but E is not the right answer. they are the big entities. Nikhil is saying A, and that is the right answer. Exim Bank. These all are the small entities now. That's why they are not the market makers. Market maker is the Exim Bank. It is the scheduled commercial banks. It is the NBFCs that have more than that have the net owned fund of 500 crore or above. So market makers are the firms or individuals that are engaged in two sides of the market, that are big entities. Okay. Next is, as per the market direction, you have to tell that which of these are the non-retail users and eligible to protect for the protection sellers for the credit derivative default swaps. So credit default swap, as I have told you before also, that it is a derivative that is deriving their value from the credit risk. So if I have given the money to the company, corporate, but I am not sure that this corporate will return my money. So I am trying to protect myself by taking this derivative, by paying the amount to a NBFC or to any of the protection sellers, and the protection seller is promising me that it will give my money back. Okay, and it will not let the credit default. So I am getting the answer all of the above, and that is correct. See, all of these are the protection sellers. The insurance companies are under the IRDAI, their pension funds are under the PFRDA, mutual funds, all investment funds are under the SEBI, foreign portfolio investors are also under the SEBI. All of these are the non-retail users and they are the protection sellers. Next is, what aggregate limit for the FPIs for the protection sellers is what? So the foreign portfolio investors are also allowed to do the protection selling. Okay, they can also take part in the CDS, credit default swaps, and how much percentage they can do the protection selling, how much they can do, or the credit default swap, how much they can do, what percentage. This question or the previous one? Dheeraj, please tell me which question you are not able to understand. So here the answer is 5. See, FPIs are eligible to be categorized as non-retail users. Retail users are the individual users. Non-retail users are the big users. Okay. Have been allowed to buy and sell CDS protection. CDS means credit default swap protection. So if the credit is defaulting, you are protected because there are protection sellers. Not all credit defaults, you have to know that. That's how they are earning the money. If one credit is defaulting out of thousands of credit, how much money they are earning from other thousands? Okay, they have to give one because the one is defaulting. So that's how the credit default swap market works. So the selling of CDS protection by the FPIs is the limit is 5% of the outstanding stock of the corporate bond. Question 80, now you are able to understand this, that the master direction is that which of the following regulated users shall be eligible to be classified as non-retail users that are selling the protection. So these are the non-retail users. These are the non-retail users. Okay, NBFCs, insurance companies, these are the non-retail users and they are selling the protection. They are selling the credit protection. The CDS is defined here. You can read it. Okay. Next is VRR is there. The investment limit for the FPIs to invest in the local debt market under the VRR is increased to what? So here I am getting the answer 2,50,000. That is absolutely correct. 2,50,000 is the new limit. Before the limit was 1.5 lakh crore and it has been increased by 1 lakh crore and now the limit is 2.5 lakh crore. I hope now you understand that the new limit for the VRR is what? VRR is the voluntary retention route. They are bringing their money in and they are bringing the money for a period of time. They do not have to go through the regulations. Okay, proposes to introduce a separate channel. This is the separate channel for the foreign portfolio investors. They do not have to go through, they are free from the macroprudential regulations, but they have to keep the money in the country for some time period. So the limit has been increased from 1.5 lakh crore to 2.5 lakh crore. Next question is, the core financial, the CFSS is mandated to be implemented by which of the following? So here I am getting the answer D, that is correct. So the CFSS is core financial service solution, like the core banking solution, that is for the banks, that connects the branches of the banks. So here one bank is in the Delhi, PNB, one branch is in Delhi, one branch is in Rajasthan. So how are they sharing the information? That is through the CBS. Similarly, how will the NBFCs share the information? That is through the CFSS. How the NBFCs one unit share the information with the other unit, that is through the CFSS, and that is, it is mandated for the middle layer, it is mandated for the upper layer if they have 10 or more than 10 fixed point service delivery units, that is they have 10 or more than 10 branches, we can say. Next is the mandatorily implement CFSS by what percent? So they have to implement. So the NBFC UL or all the NBFC middle layer and the upper layer that have 10 or more than 10 fixed delivery units, they have to implement the CFSS by 2025. But it has been said that the eligible NBFC UL have to mandatorily implement what percentage by 2024, that is 1 year before the last date. So it is, I am getting the answer C, that is correct, 70%. So everyone has to follow it by 2025, the middle layer, the upper layer. But for the upper layer, there is one criteria that you have to have 70% of your fixed delivery units connected with the CFSS by 2024. Okay. Next is, okay. So cautioned against, the RBI cautioned against the unauthorized forex trading platforms. They were trading the foreign exchange. They were asking you to put your money in the foreign exchange. They were doing too much misleading information. They were doing misleading advertisement. And so now the RBI has said that you should only do the transaction of the foreign exchange. You can only do the transaction of trading of the foreign exchange in the electronic trading platforms that are authorized under which? RBI, everyone is saying RBI, but it is all of the above. Okay, so it is while permitted foreign exchange transactions can be executed electronic, that is electronic trading platforms are there, they should be undertaken only on the electronic trading platforms that are authorized by the RBI and or the recognized stock exchanges, that is NSE, BSE and Metropolitan. So it is very important that you have to remember that they are authorized by which. So recently in Feb 2022, RBI cautioned public against a company operating a semi-closed, non-closed prepaid instrument wallet through its carpooling app. So which was the name of the carpooling app that was that the RBI cautioned against? Thank you so much, Ronak. And I am bringing these kind of tough questions. There are mixed questions. There can be tough questions. There can be easy questions. So I have tried to keep the moderate questions. I have tried to keep the tough questions. I have tried to keep the easy questions so that you can clear the phase 1 very easily. Because the RBI can increase the level. In the previous, there were 10 to 11 questions and I have shown you that there was a question on the recommendations. And the question was so big. But it was a very easy question if you see that question. Similarly, here the question might seem big, but you can easily answer them if you have the minimum understanding. Okay, so there can be mixed question, tough, easy and moderate. So here I am getting the right answer. SRide is the app that the RBI has cautioned against. Next is RBI released quarterly statistics on deposits and credit of SCBs December 2021. In Feb 2022, bank credit growth stood at what as compared to March 2021? 5.6%. So here the right answer is yes. There will be easy questions, very easy, that you will be able to answer very easily. Tough questions also, you have seen these kind of questions, you will be easily able to answer them now. Thank you so much, Dheeraj. So here 8.4% is the answer, that by December 2021 the credit growth stood at 8.4%. Okay, so it was all, this is the highlights. See, when it comes to the reports, when it comes to the survey or something, na, just see the highlights. There are only 5 to 6 points that you have to see. So do not go to the report, just see the highlights. That is important. Next is, this is last third question, very easy to answer. RBI and Dash has signed a amendment and restatement agreement. This is the bilateral swap arrangement. So which of the country the RBI is doing this swap arrangement? Okay, I am getting the answers. Here the answer is the Bank of Japan. So the RBI has done a swap arrangement with the Bank of Japan. Yes, very easy to answer. Direct question. Next is, RBI has conducted the Financial Literacy Week. You have to tell that what was the theme of the Financial Literacy Week. Again, a very easy question. I hope that all of you will be able to answer that. The theme for this year was Go Digital, Go Secure. For the previous year, 2019, the theme was Farmers. For 2020, MSMEs. For 2021, Credit Discipline and Credit from Formal Institutions. For this year, Go Digital, Go Secure. And this theme was one of the strategic objectives of the NSFE. So this report was also released by the RBI, and that's why this is very important, as well as it is in news also, NSFE. So you have to tell that, see, a direct question has come from the NSFE in the previous year. Now NSFE is again in news, so a question can come. So you can you tell that what were the 5 C's? Which of these is not among the 5 C's? Okay, I am getting the answers now. And do tell me that what level of questions you want for tomorrow. I will keep the questions in that line only. But I think that you should do the tough questions also. Then only you will be able to easily go through the easy questions in the phase 1. If you do the easy questions, then it will be a little harder for you to read and understand the questions in the phase 1. Consumer. Yes, Nilesh is saying consumer, and that is right. This is the wrong one. Content, capacity, community, communication, collaboration. All of this is what NSFE is about. These are the strategic objectives. These are the stages, target segments. These are the geography, economic sector that they want to work on. And the NSFE strategy, this is the national strategy that is being prepared under the NCFE. And this is the level that the NCFE is coming under which. So I have provided you everything about the NSFE. Go through it once, no need to go too much in depth. Okay. So thank you very much. And now today the session has been completed. Just tell me for tomorrow that what level of questions you want. If you want easy questions, I will make easy questions. But according to me, you should do tough questions so that it will be easier for you to get the exam cleared. Okay, phase 1 will be very competitive. You have to have good preparation. Okay, and do tell me in the comment section that which kind of questions you want. If you want easy questions, moderate question, or tough question. And if you have liked the session, then also do tell me in the comment section. So for tomorrow, the RBI news session will be there, in which we will discuss about the PCA framework, scale-based regulatory framework, and all the important frameworks that came in the previous months. And let me tell you, those were very important frameworks. Scale-based regulatory framework is continuously in news. So you can understand that how much important it is. Then we have complete current affairs in these 4 sections. Then we will be coming with rapid fire 300 questions in which we will be going very fast, and you will be getting 300 questions to practice. So thank you very much. I hope you have liked the session. Do tell me in the comment section. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everyone.